As we speak today, Son Heung-min, the Tottenham captain, is the most hated Tottenham player amongst Arsenal fans and perhaps some Arsenal players. Why? Because probably cost Arsenal a Premier League title. But well, before we discuss all that, 5 months ago, I sat before you here on a video and I discussed why I thought VAR shouldn't be scrapped off. I made my case for that and I will leave a link in the description for that video. But as we speak of today, the Premier League club in Wolverhampton Wanderers has come out to call for the scrapping of the video assistant referee, citing that it has brought the game in disrepute, that it is costing the Premier League brand, among other reasons. Personally, I still stand by my opinion that VAR shouldn't be scrapped because, as we all know, VAR is simply just a system that is being implemented by human beings, by individuals. It's those individuals that are bringing the system into disrepute for their failure to be consistent with it, for their failure to make the right judgment, for the amount of time they take to make certain decisions, for the wrong decisions they are making even after reviewing the evidence, for over interfering in the game of football sometimes when they shouldn't, and for failure to intervene when they should sometimes. So, welcome back to the Football Tribe YouTube channel. Robert Kesakos is my name. I know it's been a minute because over the weekend I was unable to review for you all the action that had transpired during the course of the weekend, that so Manchester City beat up against Fulham by 4-0, and then Arsenal went to Old Trafford and picked a 1-0 victory, among other key results in the weekend, including that of Chelsea beating up against Nottingham Forest by 3-2, among others. Anyways, thank you to all our new subscribers, and thank you to all those that have been watching our content. This particular episode on the Football Tribe will be dedicated to the fallen former Uganda Cranes goalkeeper and goalkeeping coach in Coach Fred Kajoba Chisitu, a dad to one of my dear friends and a subscriber to this channel in Paul Chigozi. May his soul rest in peace, and may God grant you the strength that you need in this difficult time. Back to the news. Wolverhampton Wanderers want VAR scrapped off. But will that happen? As much as they are valid in their reasons that they are citing for that justification, I do think the decision won't pass. Of course, the Premier League board has come out to voice their view that they are not in support of this particular proposal, and nonetheless, the clubs will have to vote on this particular proposal when they gather on 6th June for their annual general meeting. Now, Wolverhampton Wanderers will need a 2/3 majority if their proposal is to pass. Are there clubs that are disgruntled with VAR? Quite a number of them. Players, managers, that all who have expressed several times their opinions that VAR is costing them points, is costing them results, is affecting the game in a bad way. There's quite a number of those. In any case, Mikel Arteta was summoned by the FA to explain himself for post-match comments made after Arsenal's 1-0 loss to Newcastle. I think sometime late last year, when he called it a disgrace. Although in their defense, they reduced that word to a disgracia in Spanish, citing that the manager is Spanish, so disgracia means something else. But what divulged into the details of what Arsenal's arguments were in defense of Mikel Arteta, but again, that he came out to voice his dissatisfaction, not with VAR in itself, but the kind of officiating that had transpired on the day. One too many times, we've debated on different social media platforms and other forums concerning matters of football in relation to the officiating and VAR itself. A good number of my colleagues both online and offline, do agree that the level of officiating in the Premier League is oftentimes substandard. That oftentimes referees fall short of the minimum standard in terms of what the fans expect of them, in terms of what the game expects of them. And it is no surprise that when it comes to international competition, only a few are summoned. As far as I'm concerned, present day, it is Michael Oliver and Anthony Taylor that have been called up to officiate in the 2024 Euros that will be hosted in Germany in June later this year. So, over the course of the season, we have seen VAR wrongly implemented. They have gotten many decisions right, but they have gotten many decisions wrong. Just recently, Nottingham Forest were voicing their views of VAR failing to intervene when the referee denied them 3 penalties in a 2-0 loss against Everton. To rewind things back, it was VAR that cancelled out Luis Diaz's goal against Tottenham that should have stood. 10 minutes after the game, the Pidgeotto was out apologizing, saying that that goal should have stood, but the result of the game had already ended. I think Tottenham had won that particular fixture by 2-1, meaning the result of the game had already been impacted upon, which could not be reversed. How many times in the course of this season have we had the head of Pidgeotto this season, that's former English referee in Howard Webb, come out to apologize, to say it was human error, that we should have done better, our officials should have done better in the circumstances, and yet they didn't. It takes us back to 2019-2020, the season in which video assistant referee was introduced in the Premier League. 5 seasons on the spin, and we are still having very vague and stupid errors, in my view. In that particular video where I justified why VAR shouldn't be scrapped off, I did question whether referees week in, weekend out, go back and review some of the major decisions that have been made in a previous weekend and mark themselves to say this was right, we got it wrong here, and for purposes of consistency, if we do find ourselves in a similar circumstance going forward, this should be the decision. Do they do that? I am not sure. I do not know. If they do it, then the evidence that they bring back in terms of officiating the following weekend has not done much to support their judgment. So clearly, again, video assistant referee. The video just provides evidence for the human beings behind those monitors to make the right decisions. And yet, after wasting so much time, sometimes up to 4 or 5 minutes waiting for a decision, after reviewing incidents multiple times, they still get decisions wrong. And yet somehow, immediately after the game, they know what they should have done right when the result of the game has already been impacted. I think every team across the Premier League has had its fair share of bad tests of decisions as a result of VAR. Is it the advantage of some teams sometimes? Maybe yes. But as we all know, the game should be fair and square. So Wolves are advocating that we go back to the old times where the center referee's decision was all but final. Personally, I do not think so. Whereas that is the case currently in the Sky Bet Championship in England, in League One and League Two, I do not think at the level of the Premier League, when major leagues across the globe are implementing VAR, it is time for Premier League to instead rewind back. My advice would be that let them sit down and review the instance of VAR. Initially, it was for them to eliminate clear and obvious errors from the game that had been not either seen or misjudged by referees. Have they done that? To some extent. But then, in many cases, we feel they have overstepped their boundaries. They are coming in with their opinions over subjective decisions, over 50-50 decisions. And by that, I mean the humans, the faces behind those monitors looking at that evidence. So perhaps the Premier League ought to interrogate the extent to which VAR should intervene. The circumstances should be redefined. They said they only intervene on straight red cards. Let's say a referee wrongly awards a straight red card. But we've also seen decisions that affect the game. For example, a referee wrongly awards a second booking that culminates into a red card, and then VAR is not supposed to intervene. I have, a difference of opinion about that. I do think they should intervene, especially if the referee has gotten it absolutely wrong. Among other decisions, as far as offside is concerned, they've tried to draw the lines, and they have committed themselves to implementing that semi-automated offside technology that we see that has been used in, I think, in the Italian Serie A, in the UEFA Champions League, and other European competitions. They are committed to implementing that. So, oftentimes, VAR has saved us from the wrong goals that have been a result of offside. However, sometimes they have cancelled out goals that shouldn't have been offside. We've just cited the example of Luis Diaz versus Tottenham. So clearly, there's plenty to do for the Premier League, but they'll have that vote on that motion come June 6th, and we will wait to hear what the verdict will be going into next season, that is the 2024-2025 Premier League season. Anyways, moving forward, Arsenal fans hate Tottenham captain Son Heung-min because yesterday, as Manchester City beat Tottenham by 2-0, he missed a golden opportunity to restore parity before Manchester City found their second goal in the game. I think it was Ruben Diaz that squandered the ball there, losing possession, conceding possession to Tottenham. Then Son Heung-min goes on the run. He has a keeper to beat. He's first with Stefan Ortega, and then he fails to convert that chance. At the time, that game was 1-0, courtesy of Braut Erling Haaland's goal in the 51st minute. Mark you, at this point, it's a little bit late on in the game. All Arsenal fans are on their knees wherever they are across the world. Even those that managed to get themselves into the Tottenham Stadium were busy praying for an equalizer. Personally, I had already voiced my opinions across different fora that it was the equivalent of asking a cat to guard milk for Arsenal fans to place their faith in Tottenham for them to beat Manchester City so that perhaps Arsenal can go on to win the Premier League title. For the ardent fans to this channel, you all remember that I did congratulate Manchester City upon winning this season's Premier League title on the weekend that Arsenal lost by 2-0 against Aston Villa, while Liverpool on the other side were losing by 1-0 against Crystal Palace. That's the weekend that personally I surrendered my prediction of Arsenal winning this year's Premier League title to Manchester City. I congratulated Manchester City because we all knew ever since the turn of January that Arsenal needed to be perfect if they wanted to win the Premier League. In any case, Manchester City have been that. They have been nearly perfect. The last time they lost a game was December 6th when they lost to Aston Villa by 1-0. Last time Arsenal lost a game of football was about 5 fixtures ago when they lost to Aston Villa. So clearly, Arsenal will only have themselves to blame for not winning this season's Premier League title, and should anything happen, because miracles do happen in football, on the final day, which I personally do not expect, Manchester City are simply champions in waiting. They are waiting to beat West Ham United on the final day to lift their 4th straight Premier League title. Arsenal, on the other hand, whereas I do think they will beat up against Everton, just like they did last season in their final game, it will not count for anything beyond what they will consider progress, but still trophyless this season. So, I do understand the frustrations, perhaps the pain of Arsenal fans, uh, so much to the delight of Tottenham fans who were cheering Manchester City, some of whom were cheering Manchester City yesterday, the delight of Manchester United fans, but the agony of Manchester United fans in some respect for those that did not want or do not want Manchester City to win the fourth Premier League title in a row. I do understand, but it is what it is. I think Manchester City are simply champions in waiting. Whereas West Ham would have hoped to give their manager, David Moyes, who won them their first European silverware last season when they lifted the UEFA Conference League, uh, whereas they would have wanted to give them the perfect send-off. I do not think that Manchester City is the perfect opponent for them to meet to try and attempt that perfect send-off with a victory for David Moyes. I do not think it will happen. More so, considering that it will be at the Etihad Stadium. Anyway, that's it that I had for you today. Of course, there were fixtures on Monday. We did see Liverpool share the spoils against Aston Villa in a 3-all draw. Liverpool squandering a 3-1 lead there. John Duran with 2 late goals to restore parity for Aston Villa. That game should either side not have missed as many opportunities as they did miss. In my opinion, could have easily ended 7-5 or 7-6 in favor of Aston Villa. And then, of course, tonight, Manchester United are up against Newcastle at Old Trafford, while Brighton and Hove Albion are at home against Chelsea. Those games are ongoing as we speak. I'm not sure of the particular scores, but last I checked, they were still goalless. But that's it. All I had for you for now from the Football Tribe YouTube channel. Do not forget to subscribe, to comment, like, and share. And I'll see you next time. Stay blessed and have a wonderful rest of the week. I'll see you next time.